I'm going to tie a tan PFD spinner, and I'm going to tie it in a size 12, but I typically fish these 14, 16, 18, but just hoping it comes up a little bit better here on camera. So got my size 12 dry fly hook, and I'm going to use a Rusty Dunn 8/0. So I'm just going to get that started midway in the hook shank here, and I'll come back through and trim the tag end. I'm going to work my thread down to just at the barb or the bend of the hook there. I'm going to put just a slight thread ball in here, and that's going to help my microfibbits splay out. So I'm going to take 2 microfibbits, one for either side. And when I tie these in, I'm just going to set them on top to start. And I want them to be about maybe 1.5 or 2 times the length. I'm just going to tie them in back to the thread ball. And if I push them over top of one another, they'll start to separate a little bit. I can come through the center. And just move them apart with my thread. Then I'll just tie them down, and once I'm happy with that and the way they're situated, I'll come back through and just trim off the excess. The body that I'm going to tie in is just going to be a tan goose biot. So I'm just going to take a real long section, trim it off, and I'm going to tie this in by the tip. Right on the back, right behind that bump. And then I'll work my thread up to about the 2/3 mark or so. I'm going to take my hackle pliers and just clamp the end, and I'll just start to make my wraps all the way through to my thread. And then when I get to that thread mark, I'm just going to come back through and tie it off. Alright, now at this point I'm going to put just a drop of head cement on that to protect it. This will make it a little bit more durable. And I'll put a drop just there on that thread bump just to make sure that the tails stay where they're supposed to. So I'll just give that a moment to dry, and while I'm doing that, I've cut just a real thin piece of tan foam, and this is just craft store foam, and I've pinched the end slightly to give me a good tie-in point. So I'm just going to tie that into the front. I'm going to come back through and tie in my wing, and the wing that I'm going to use is just a Antron yarn. So I've got my white Antron yarn, and so I'm just going to fold a piece of that in half, and then I'm just going to go back through and not really cut the ends, but just kind of slice through. And I'm going to measure this out right on top, tie it in with a couple of loose wraps, and now I can start to make my V-wraps through. And when I'm happy with the way that they're situated, now I can put in some dubbing here in the thorax. And I'm just going to use a dry fly dubbing. It's just a brown dry fly dubbing. And I'm going to put that on real thin on the thread. And this will help with the final positioning of those wings. Pull everything back away from the head, and now make my wraps again towards the back. Now I can just bring my foam over top and tie it in as well. And then finally, I can just trim off the front. Finish tying in the head. And then whip finish here. Trim off the excess. And I'll put another drop of head cement here. And then the last thing I'll do is just trim up my wings just to get them to a uniform length here. And I take kind of stabbing cuts just to give some unevenness to it. And that's it. That is my tan PFD spinner.